How can anyone, whether they want to work in a language school or privately from their own laptop anywhere in the world, create a rewarding and impactful career teaching English as a second language, even if they are just starting out or have no teaching experience or ability? Hi, my name is Lynette Kim, and here on the TESOL Talk podcast, I aim to answer that very question.
Something that I feel is really important as an ESL teacher is how to be impactful, how to be an impactful teacher that makes the most of the ESL experience for students. This is something that will make a difference for a long time, and you can have an impact on students' life that is ongoing. It can really change them. And I've gone through and seen this in my own students, some in some very specific cases and with other people's students as well. But before I go on and talk about that more, I want to explain a little bit about the things that can lead to being an impactful teacher. And one of those things is usually spoken of in the realm of business, which is transformational leadership. And you're probably thinking, well, how has that got anything to do with teaching? Well, surprisingly, the concepts in transformational leadership really transcends into teaching very, very well. So when we look at what transformational leadership is, it's a style of leadership that's there to inspire other people to achieve their personal best in whatever they're attempting to do, whether that's the drive or a vision. It's the passion of the leader, but I mean the leader is actually just taking the vision of the company, or in this case a classroom, and seeing that brought to fruition. So in the ESL classroom, the leader is the TESOL teacher, obviously, and the drive is that teacher's enthusiasm and passion, while the vision is the common language goal of the learners to be able to become fluent English speakers. So this is where transformational leadership is really important in the classroom, can make an amazing difference. So students will willingly follow a transformational teacher, so a teacher that the students can sense and see that the whole drive and vision and the passion of that teacher is that common language goal of the learners. They will willingly follow, they will be inspired, and they will encourage each other to do their personal best. So this is really interesting, and you see this in the ESL classroom where students will be encouraging each other, naturally helping each other. So just say, for example, if it's one student's called on to answer something and they falter and they're not sure, then there's another student that will, tell them or give them help, like whisper across the room or say, oh, what about this? And allow that first student to still give the answer. But they're just supplying the answer to them. And you can see that, the room has become this organic entity of people just helping each other. It's wonderful. Now, the transformational teacher can be seen because they have a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm, and they're focused on that united vision in the classroom. And the students know that the classroom is fully focused on their progress, on their learning language goal. And so this causes this change to happen within the students themselves and the social ecosystem of the classroom. It's, like when you have a classroom like this, there's nothing like it. It's just magic. You can really feel that all the students are working together and supporting each other fully. They're all supporting each other as independent learners rather than the class just looking to the teacher to be spoon-fed. And I mean, if you are there are academic-led teachers out there who have excellent skills in the English language, in grammar, academia, word function and form, all these things. And it's great to listen to them sometimes with their knowledge. But at the end of the day, it's their knowledge, and as much as you can listen and take in your own language, and you walk away and go, oh my God, how much of that did I actually retain? Imagine yourself, students, how little they're going to retain because they're also having to try and get that in a second language. So, the academic approach in the ESL classroom isn't necessarily the best way to go. And it certainly isn't the way to go all the time. So when you see this transformational classroom instead, where the focus isn't on the teacher holding up and being the linchpin for the entire class, but the teacher allowing the class and facilitating the learners to be all independent learners supporting each other's learning, it's a whole different ballgame. So you'll see that the motivation of the students is completely enhanced. They're not just motivated to come to class now just to learn something for themselves. They are coming to class because they feel that their contributions are meaningful and that other students need them. And you can sense this because when you first start teaching a class, if you make sure that you are very focused on each individual student's skills. So certain students are going to be better at vocab, other students are going to be better at grammar, other students are better at pronunciation, all these sorts of things. And you recognize the skills of students and you encourage that. So just say, for example, in the ESL classroom, a student asks you, the teacher, a question for help. Rather than answering it, because everyone knows you've got the answer, if you know there's a particular student in your class who would also know the answer, ask them. Why not say to them, oh, Johnny can answer that. Johnny, what would you say for that? And let that student have that moment to teach, because in the teaching of others is where we learn ourselves. So handing the reins over in that way allows that student then to become motivated to learn more because they're helping each other. They're getting that gift of feeling that of being of service to others and being a contributor. So their morale and the performance of the group as a whole, because they're all connecting now with a sense of identity and they all have that common goal of helping each other, then you have other students who are good at different things. And once you're calling upon them, and it's not a case of, are you then the teacher? Are you teaching your students? Yes, you are. You're guiding them. You're facilitating their learning. And obviously, in the case where students can't answer, you will be the one to give the answer or give the information that students require. But barring that, there are always going to be students who are a little bit better or a little bit higher than others in specific things. Let them shine in the classroom. Let them have that moment because, it's all part of learning and helping with the common goal that's to be achieved. Now, as a role model in the classroom, you do need to challenge the group and make them take ownership for their own learning. So aligning tasks and goals in the classroom to support this process. So being well aware of the level of your students, like just say you've got a class of intermediate level students, so they're kind of 50-50, 50% they understand and 50% they have no clue about. That's really where, and you can think to yourself as a teacher, 50% of what I'm saying, these students can figure out, and 50% they have no idea. That's basically an intermediate level student. So, just using that as an example, being aware of the goals and the tasks. So yes, you might have printed course books that you're using, and generally those books speak directly to that level and not above it. So knowing that, yes, this material is at a level that these students can comprehend, and then adding something extra in like additional vocabulary that's slightly above the level. Now we're going into Krashen's theory of second language acquisition a little bit here, but adding above the level and adding additional activities or scenarios. So perhaps the learning material is all about cooking, but putting that scenario into a different work-related skill or scenario. So, being able to align with what students' life skills and goals and their successes will be, that's where you come in as the teacher. It doesn't have to be that, you answer everything. And in fact, with student talk time being 80%, you really don't want to be, because it's really hard to meet that goal. So for teachers wanting to help learners and motivating the learners to take responsibility for their own learners and to take risks, you want to be inspiring students and you want to give them some difficult tasks, but let them work in pairs and groups to achieve this. So you really want to look at areas that you can help with motivation and do lots of teamwork with your classrooms. Now, hi, it's Lynn here. I hope you're enjoying this episode of TESOL Talk. I just want to let you know that if you want to teach English as a second language, then the best way to get started is by getting your TESOL certification. Of course, my recommendation for the best TESOL course is a TESOL Australia course because I wrote those. I wrote them because there are so many important things I felt were missing in TESOL courses that were on offer. So I put everything in that I wish I had been taught when I was first starting out. If you have any questions or if you need someone to help you figure out a plan to create a rewarding and impactful career teaching English as a second language, simply go to our website, tesolau.com. That's TESOLAU.com and fill in the form to get professional advice on your exact situation. Also, if you ask for the TESOL Talk discount, we will give you an extra $100 off the course of your choice. Now let's get straight back to the episode. We can also see with transformational leadership that there are two sides. You have to be a little careful. So you've got transformational leadership and transactional. And transactional is that approach where, you're exchanging. It's like a give and a take in the relationship. And you don't want it to be like that because it's not as energizing for the classroom. Transformational leaders are more working towards the benefit of the team. So they're not taking, they're actually giving, handing the reins over to students to run things as much as possible. And I guess some examples of this is where you would allow students to write on the board. And we're talking about adult students as well here, because adult students like to take control. And quite often when I was teaching, the managers would come into the classroom looking for me on occasion and they couldn't find me because I was in amongst the students, and there was a student at the board being a scribe, writing things on the board, asking the class questions. And I'd been asked by managers before, what are you doing? And I would say to them, these are adults with life skills, and this is their moment to stand up and to be put on the spot in the English language, but with the support of the classroom behind them. So I'm not going to take an opportunity away from students to communicate, so have that 80% student talk time, or to be able to take control of their learning and support the learning of others. And so, this was always accepted, which is great. So when you're a transformational teacher, you're looking for something more than just self-gain. It's that inspiring vision and a mission to give your students the identity of, self-learners, but not just self-learners, but also motivated to facilitate the learning of others. So you're looking at being a mentor in a sense. You're looking at what the concerns and needs are for the classroom, having empathy, always being a supportive role in the classroom, and opening up as many opportunities for communication, and additionally celebrating each individual contribution of the classroom. So, don't sort of overlook the opportunity to give praise where praise is due. So, it just is so encouraging for students when a student takes an activity really well and puts things on the board and asks meaningful questions or whatever, just like, you did a great job. That's amazing. And, these things that you brought out, or if a student gives some great vocabulary examples, that's fantastic. You used an idiom or you had a phrasal verb there, whatever. Give the students credit where credit is due, and encourage other students to do the same, to be able to say to their fellow students, oh, thanks for that. That was really helpful, because this is so motivating, and you're going to have a class that progresses so much faster than a controlled academic class ever will. The other thing is that intellectual stimulation, because the students are now more willing to take risks, and they're going to solicit ideas from their group, and they're going to work together for the language goal of the classroom. So they're starting to think independently now, and you have lots of unexpected opportunities come up. You're going to have opportunities for additional learning and life experience, and all those wonderful things that give a classroom a rich life of its own. Now, it is also inspirational and motivating for students. So you need to always have the leader challenging the students, and you, as a leader in the classroom, you need to be giving purpose and meaning and providing energy. So just keeping the students engaged and always encouraging them and reminding them of their goals. So, when you first meet your students, they're going to tell you, or you should at least get to know them in the first week. What are your goals? And so it might be they're going to travel, they might be going to study abroad, they could be doing all kinds of things. But sometimes you have to remind them of their goals. And I had one particular student, and actually the student wasn't even in my class, and he had failed a test that he had studied, I think 12 weeks for, and he studied English to get through, and he didn't get what he needed, and he was so down, and he was like, I just want to give up. And I had a chat to him, and I'm like, no, don't feel that way. You worked hard, own it. You got to where you are now. It's just going to take, now's your opportunity to show what you're really made of. Inside you, you have that grit. You can choose to give up, or you can double down and go, I'm going to prove to myself I have the fortitude and the grit to push through this and to get it. Because through this adversity, through this difficult situation, I didn't use that word because that would have been too high a level for the student, but through this difficult part now where I could easily give up, you can push through. And remember, and pushing through is going to get you to your goal, which is, I think in this case, the student was going to go into a university course if he could get that particular score that he needed for the IELTS test. So he signed up for another 12 weeks of lesson, good on him, and he worked hard. And after that second 12 weeks, he got it. Now, he wasn't my student, but the fact was you get to meet all kinds of students in different classes, but I had actually left the country at this point, and one of the teachers told me that when this student gave his goodbye speech, because they all give speeches when they leave and they graduate, when he gave his goodbye speech, he actually mentioned the time that we spoke and how he was going to give up, but how through our chat, he decided that he wanted to prove to himself, not anybody else, but himself, that he could do this and he could, meet this challenge. And so he did it, and he was just so glad that he did. And, it was so heartwarming for me to hear that, a year later, that that little bit of time that I spent motivating that student made such a difference to them, and that he went on and achieved his goals. So he didn't let things stand in the way. So honestly, it's such a wonderful feeling to know that you can help students in this way. So remember, as a teacher, helping students to transform themselves. And it's not even your job to transform them. They will transform themselves. You just need to facilitate the atmosphere for them to show their strengths and their abilities and contribute to helping others. And in that, you will be a transformational teacher. And, there's wonderful benefits. It'll cause change in the learning systems of the learners, the motivation and the morale in the classroom. all the learners will have a connected sense of identity and common goal in the classroom, and they'll be working hard to achieve not just for their own benefit what their learning goal is, but that of the rest of the group, and they'll be independent learners. And it optimizes the strengths and abilities of individual learners in the classroom, and for you it'll help you to understand your students better and challenge them as individual learners and as a group, and it'll challenge them to do more and be more than they had expected. Now, helping these learners to see that everything that they're doing is valid, that their contributions are meaningful, is so important. So thinking about, in the classroom, the type of, teacher that you want to be. If ESL teaching is something that interests you, then, thinking about this, how you can be a transformational teacher and how you can really teach in the ESL classroom. You don't have to be the most academic teacher. You don't have to control everything. You actually are the facilitator of the benefit of the group, and it's an absolutely wonderful experience.